everyone, and welcome to this episode of Future Identity Now. I'm Laura, I'm the Portfolio Manager of Future Identity, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Russ Cohn, General Manager International at OCR Labs. Hi Russ, how are you today?
Good, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for being here, and welcome to Future Identity Now. So in this series, we talk about the significant trends and the technologies that are currently shaping digital identity. But before we get into that, Russ, could I just ask you to introduce yourself and just to tell us a little about what it is that OCR Labs do?
Sure. So I'm General Manager of OCR Labs' international operations, which is all markets outside of the APAC region. And I help to build the team and helping the team to go to market and to support them selling and scaling OCR Labs' solution everywhere across the world. So OCR Labs is a fully automated remote identity verification and fraud detection platform to help businesses accurately, quickly, and securely verify the identity of their customers. And particularly in the world of increased KYC and identity becoming very important today, we help those businesses to protect themselves and their customers from fraud.
Great, thank you. And as you say, businesses today, that fraud prevention is becoming more and more important, isn't it? You have to account for a constantly evolving landscape of security threats, and I think the more complex our digital interactions become, the more entry points there are for bad actors looking to commit fraud or to hack our data. And I'd say this has only been exacerbated in the last few years as many businesses have had to transfer even more of their interactions online and perhaps are unable to rely on any form of human interaction to ensure the safety of those transactions. So how can this advanced identity verification technology that you mentioned, which is specifically unreliant on humans, how can that really help to mitigate the threat of fraud?
So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Identity is becoming more and more prevalent across the world. We've seen, COVID definitely exacerbate the problem because of the inability of people to get to locations where companies potentially used to identify them and understand their customers, be able to look in their eyes. So remote identity is definitely becoming more important and critical. Businesses are losing billions and billions of dollars every year to bad actors, and the threat of identity theft is definitely more prevalent than it was before, even outside financial services. So we're seeing a proliferation of cases across the world in different areas, and we can help businesses in every sector be able to do that and get closer to their customers. I think in the past, if we look at the sector and the technologies out there, a lot of solutions out there have relied on human intervention. So they've used technology and then they've passed it to teams to do that. I think what we saw over COVID was the fact that the inability to rely on humans because of they couldn't get to the office, so they weren't able to do the jobs that they would have done previously, has meant that those processes have slowed and fraud has potentially increased and customers haven't got what they needed from a solution. With OCR Labs' automated solution, the technology is fully developed at the highest standards internally for us. We have the highest security measures, some of the highest security measures in the world, and have been verified against some of the most stringent tests for anti-spoof detection and for threat detection. And so that's really helped our customers, financial institutions, telcos, automotive companies, to feel secure that they can run their customers through this process, get a great outcome, and still not rely on those teams for human intervention. What that's meant is that they can prioritize the people in their teams into other tasks that are more efficient and only escalate the worst cases, for example, or the unsure cases to those teams in order to QA them to get them through the process. So we're saving businesses, millions and millions of dollars by automating the solution, and they can sleep easy at night that our solution is 100% secure and will protect their customers and their businesses from fraud.
Brilliant. Well, no, that makes a lot of sense, as you say, to not have to use that human interaction for every case, but just for those cases where it's most necessary, and have kind of technology to manage and truly verify the other cases to mitigate that threat. Perhaps I'm assuming removing a margin of human error as well, which is natural, I think, anytime human interaction is involved.
Yeah, agreed. And also, I mean, just to add to that point, what we've seen is there is internal fraud sometimes. So some of the teams are handling some of this very sensitive data, and we can take away that risk within businesses to allow that automation to happen, and then take away that threat of having internal bad actors as well as external people trying to threaten that business. So it really does create more efficiency and more security.
No, fantastic. And you mentioned there efficiency as well as security. As businesses are not just under pressure, to tighten up their security, but there's a lot of pressure for them to streamline their online processes and to provide as kind of efficient and quick services to customers as possible, really. I mean, customers have become fairly accustomed to a certain level of service in a fast-moving digital landscape. And we know that the longer that customers are kept waiting to onboard to a service or to purchase a product, the more likely they are not to complete a transaction. So that's a great pressure on businesses as well, I'm sure. So do you think that identity verification has become a significant part of that? And can that efficient online verification really have an impact on customer conversion as well?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. Customers have been demanding better and better customer experience. They gravitate towards businesses that provide an easy journey for them, regardless of what they're doing, whether it's shopping in an Amazon basket or starting a new account for dating or whatever the case might be. So that user experience is really critical. Our automated engines and our automated solution allows those customers in a bespoke environment that we help our customers to design for them and embed into their flow to be able to verify themselves early on. It's going to be more and more important that that trusted identity is done first, so that you can re-verify if you're doing repeat transactions, for example, or logging back in again. You don't want a customer to have to go through the same tedious process, in a sense, every time they want to access your services. So you have to be thinking, how do I embed that identity safely and securely, but not affect my customer's journey so that it becomes an obstruction and they are choosing a competitor of mine. They're saying, this is too difficult, I need to go somewhere else. So it's really, really important that businesses, e-commerce businesses, and all businesses, in fact, embed that into the journey in a safe and secure way for not only their customers, but to make sure that KYC is done and that they can, the customer feels comfortable, and then they can build a long-term relationship with those people.
Great, and you mentioned there a couple of times, embedding that into the customer journey, and we actually worked with OCR Labs, with yourself, on a recent industry insight report, which was powered by OCR Labs, and that was titled "The Future of Identity is Embedded." This was, if anyone listening hasn't already read it, it was a really fantastic report with lots of data on online customer behavior and some insights in there from credit companies, fintechs, and other identity industry experts. But I think that title is really interesting. We're hearing more and more in the financial services industry about embedded payments, embedded insurance, kind of all wrapped up in the term embedded finance. But we're not hearing so much about that embedded identity. So what do you think, Russ, that it means to talk about embedded identity online?
Well, again, it's people are spending more and more time online, and they want access to those services. So again, it's absolutely key that they get it, that businesses think about that user experience and how they can make it as clean and as efficient as people when they do want to access those services, whether through the web or through an app or whatever the case might be. PSD2 is the new directive that's come out, across Europe to ensure that all financial services allow a remote identity be done in order to access those services for consumers across Europe. Now, that will in some form be scaling across the world. So governments are operating at different paces, and financial regulators are operating at different paces, but we think that will become the standard to enable that access to identity. So it's important that people are doing this right now. So I think it's about that lack of friction and that ability for us. For example, we can scan over 13,000 documents globally. So whether we're operating in the US and there's a Medicard, a medical care card, for example, that you want to access, or you're in Vietnam and it's a driver's license, businesses want to be able to find those customers who are increasingly global, verify them within the regulations that operate in their territories, and feel that they can onboard those people to their services securely. So by embedding that identity into the journey, it allows for that to happen. And then the re-authentication again, that is very important for people to re-access services again. So if they have to keep going through those processes, it becomes a blocker for them to access that product, that service, that business, and then they will often choose to go elsewhere because it becomes frustrating and they just run. So because consumers' expectations become so high.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, it's been really fascinating talking to you, Russ, and we'll also be seeing you at the Future Identity Festival on the 15th and 16th of November this year. So we look forward to hearing more on all of these topics then, on the future of kind of secure and more seamless identity verification and embedded identity.
Yeah, we're really excited to join you. There have not been a lot of events, obviously, because of the pandemic and what's happened, and we think this, is going to become hopefully a pinnacle event, and we're excited to see the sector come together and talk about these really pressing topics and things that are very current and will set the future of the way that identity is used, not only online but globally, I think.
Yes, it's going to be a fantastic event. We've got a great lineup of sessions covering all sorts of things on the Future Identity main stage. You'll be joining us in our exhibition as well. And of course, there we've got our classic Future Identity FinTech Talent experience with our live music stage, craft beer bar as well. So I look forward to seeing you there, Russ.
Sounds incredible. Look forward to seeing you too.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Lovely to chat to you, and thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.